What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 4 with Mikel and
Tanyka,
where we have conversations on different topics. So, Tanyka, we have a special guest on the podcast.
Yes.
We welcome Ramona. What's up?
Yes, I know.
Okay. So, how are you, Ramona?
Good. Just trying to enjoy my Sunday. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing the same thing too. Enjoying my Sunday, and it looks great. So you were on another podcast during the pandemic. Tell us about that.
Yes. So it was with CBC, and it's basically speaking about like single mothers and the struggles that they have to go through with the pandemic pertaining to childcare and the lack of resources.
Okay, that sounds cool. So go check it out, everybody. So what are we talking about today, Tanyka?
So today we are going to be talking Canadian politics. Mainly, we're going to be talking about the struggles for Indigenous people, as well as Justin Trudeau, who seems to be one of the famous prime ministers here in Canada. Everyone knows him. So we're going to be talking about him.
Yep. Okay. So why do people hate Justin Trudeau compared to his father? Like, I've seen a lot of hate during his time as prime minister, like trucks saying that F Trudeau, this, and then flags saying the same thing. Like, why do people hate Trudeau? Who wants to go first on this topic?
So I can go first. I think the main thing we need to know of who these people are who hate him, and they're more right-wing people. Kind of think of them as the Republicans of Canada. Those are the people that dislike Trudeau. And the things that they're piggybacking on as to this is why we don't like him are kind of more of the scandalous things that he has kind of gone through since being prime minister.
Right. Like, yeah, he has a lot of scandals. Like, do you remember the famous blackface?
I do.
You remember that, Ramona?
Yes, and there's also the SNC Lavalin situation that I can't recall 100%, but I know it was a scandal. I know it was a hot topic between, I believe, between 2017 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So he's also done some good in Canada, like his policies. So like I summed up like a few here. The sources from the liberal.ca. If you guys want to check out more information on there, you guys can go ahead and do that. So he has done, he introduced the new Canada Child Benefit, which gives more money to the families who need it most, lifting 400,000 kids out of poverty. More you can chime on this. Made $10 a day childcare a reality for all Canadians' family. Has he done that?
Yes. So from my experience, he want to go back a little with the child tax benefits. He's helped me so much. Like, I can't deny it. Mm-hmm. Especially for low income families, and I am considered low income. And as well as $10 a day daycares, he has helped provinces across the country. However, it's really, again, it goes back to the provincial governments of each province to regulate that as well. So you may have heard the whole Doug Ford versus Justin Trudeau in regards to he's allowing it, but Ford just wanted more money out of the federal government, and it wasn't given.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that issue with Ford. It took so long to approve that policy. I thought that was a little bit ridiculous.
I mean, maybe we're talking about the wrong politician here because I think Doug Ford definitely has reasons to have some hate towards him. Be honest.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I mean,
yeah.
But
that's that's another topic for another day, I guess.
definitely, yeah. I think we can talk about him on another episode.
Yeah.
But and another thing that he has done is been able to lift drinking water advisories for Indigenous communities, since we're kind of talking about them as well. And yeah, he's done really well, and there's more to be done, and he's doing it. So, I mean, that's really great. The fact that people don't have clean drinking water in a country where I guess people may think, oh, we should have clean drinking water. It's not the case for some people, and that's horrible.
Yeah, you're right. We need more clean water. So, yeah. And there's also a little more he has done. I'm just gonna do like a couple more, and then you guys can. So he introduced the EI parental sharing benefit to provide 5 extra weeks of benefits when parental leave is shared.
We're talking about maternity leave, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah, basically. Making housing more affordable, that's kind of a question mark.
I mean,
I'm building more homes, cracking down on speculation and banning foreign investment. I know he did that. I heard that on CP24 all over the news.
Mm-hmm.
And then more support for the LGBTQT Canadians.
LGBTQ plus. There you go.
Bad. My bad.
There's actually more letters, but we'll just say that for now.
I apologize. There's so many letters. So, including federal to protect trans right, the first ever investment in the
LGBTQ plus
service organization. There we go. Plus. So those are the policies he has done.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any comments about it? Does he need to do more? Or
I mean, there is still more he's going to be doing.
Yeah,
for sure. He's not done.
Yeah.
What do you think? I have like 2 little cents, if that's okay. I know housing crisis is it's a struggle for all Canadians across the board, but I also I'm not even sure if it's also mainly Justin Trudeau or if it's also Doug Ford. Now, I'm a renter in Toronto, and I know that there is a lot of stories in regards to. Are you guys aware of AGI?
AGI, no.
AGI, no.
Okay, so now Doug. So this is just from what I can remember. Correct me if I am wrong. Now, apartment buildings that are built after 2018 are not really protected above rent increases. So landlords can up the people's rent to however they want, right?
Yes,
and that's something that's something Doug Ford is doing. And me being a renter, I do live in a building that was created way before 2018. However, he has also implemented that if landlords tend to do renovations, and it's not something for aesthetics, more so security cameras, any type of piping, roof work, the landlord can request their current tenants that were living during that period to pay for those repairs. And so that has upped the increase for their new yearly rent increase that happens, which kind of screws people over, because I think from my understanding that the increase a landlord can technically go is up to 2.5, but some people have been affected by a 3.9, if not more, interest rate, which is, to be honest, a little bit excessive in regards to inflation right now. And most of these units are not, they're not even at par at a perfect living standard. So it goes back to, like, is this a Justin Trudeau thing in terms of like a better housing situation, or is it something that Doug Ford is like, it was just the most silliest thing that he could have decided to do?
I would feel like this is more of a provincial thing than federal. So this would fall under Ford and not Trudeau.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would say the same thing. And then there's also Justin Trudeau, that he has given funding for the Black community and supporting diversity. I cannot remember the number, but there's quite a bit of funding.
I think it's was it 2 million, if I remember?
Around, it's in the million range, just to support, if I'm not mistaken, again, Black entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I remember that. I saw that.
On other organizations involving the diversity aspect that the Liberals are promoting.
Do you think that was enough, or that he should have done, like, more?
I mean, like I said, I think there is always room for improvement, but from what I can remember, because I'm one of the 90s, in politics, I would say that I didn't see it from Harper. So seeing it from Liberal, I think that means a lot. Will the Conservatives, if they ever take over Justin Trudeau, it's not really promising right now, because you don't hear anything about them protecting diversity, protecting Black communities, right? It's really up in the air, but I can't say I count on Justin Trudeau to do more, but the acknowledgement was there. There is there.
Okay, yeah, that's true. You like to trim on that, Tanyka, or you're okay?
I mean, I think I'm pretty okay, because I agree with Ramona as well. Like, I think there's always room for growth. But at the same time, what he is doing right now is great. And it's more than we've seen in the past. That's 100% correct. So I don't have much more to add to that.
Okay, that's cool. All right. So what about his father? Everybody said his father was like the perfect
Well, I wouldn't say perfect, but definitely what we see today in a lot of ways is, yes, because of his father. So he was definitely one of the better known prime ministers. So just, I guess, to briefly talk about him, and for those who don't know, if we have American listeners who don't really know much about this, his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, he was prime minister. He had two different runs in office. So he was prime minister in 68 to 79, and then in 1980 to 84. So he's actually he is the only prime minister who has the longest running in office. Like, he was there the longest. I think they said the only people who were in there maybe around the same time or longer was like our first prime minister, John A. Macdonald, and somebody else. But yeah, he because of the things we saw with him, he is the reason that the Canadian Constitution was established, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Again, for Canadians, if you don't know what that is, I would definitely do your research. You should know your rights. He helped with the Quebec separatist movement, which I think a lot of us kind of already know here in Canada. Quebec wanted to separate. Pierre Trudeau didn't want that. Yeah, I mean, he did quite a bit of good. Quite a bit of good.
He also legalized homosexuality and
yes,
adultery.
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. And totally reformed divorce.
Yes. Yes. He also amended the criminal code. So for those who have ever looked at the criminal code like me during school, what we see today is because of him. And he also liberalized laws on abortion, which is
Yeah, I saw
really
that. Yeah.
great as well. Unfortunately, not everyone gets to, in other countries, but that's great. That's because of him.
Okay. So does it matter, like, which era both his his father and the son, like, because like I feel like it's two we're in two different type of times right now between the
Well, of
two,
course,
because
yeah.
Justin Trudeau's basically like, in the social media era basically, and
Mm-hmm.
his father wasn't even
No, I mean he died in 2000, so
yeah.
I mean the internet was very new still at the time, right?
Yeah. And like technology, gas prices are high now, groceries are high as well. Um, things are changing around the world. Do you guys think that it matters which time?
Well, yeah, I think that always matters. In any case, in any situation, inflation alone, obviously, but what we also need to remember is, yes, times are very tough now, but we don't know how tough times were in the late 60s, or at least into the 70s, 80s.
Right.
We weren't there, right? But I mean, it just depends. I think we are dealing with things now that we didn't deal with in the 30 years ago versus 40 or 50. But it's not to say that there weren't struggles as well, right? I think the other thing too that we didn't mention that I think is also kind of cool to see, I guess, with Pierre Trudeau and Justin Trudeau is they were on the same party. They were both in the Liberal Party. So that's pretty cool too, to see that. But otherwise, like, I don't know. I think times were definitely different, but that's the case for. That's always going to be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, who, like, as of now, who do you guys think is like the better, like, prime minister overall, like Justin Trudeau or his father, Pierre Trudeau?
Ramona, do you want to go first?
I could state my opinion. I don't mind. Because his father did seem great. I didn't really experience it besides hearing about him. I'm not going to lie. But if we had to be in a room to pick between liberals or conservative, I would lean towards the liberals still.
Okay. All right.
I think for me, and again, like, we talked about this actually, Mikel, that I, back in the day when we did speeches, I did my speech on Pierre Trudeau. So I've kind of always had this soft spot for him, I guess. And I think because I come from a place where I worked in law, Charter of Rights and Freedoms is something I learned about in school, in college, high school, criminal code, same thing. I think that's because of those things, it's the Charter of Rights and Freedoms alone, and the fight he had to even have that done.
Right.
We wouldn't be Canada. We wouldn't be the Canada we are today without him. So it's hard for me to pick, because I also see the good Justin Trudeau is doing as well for modern day Canada. So it's really hard for me to pick one or the other, really.
Yeah, I can't pick, because like I wasn't also there for Pierre Trudeau. So.
Neither was I. Can we wait a minute? I'm a 90s baby too.
Yeah.
Right?
Mikel, actually, you're an 80s baby. Calm down.
Yeah, but like I was like,
You're like 80s born, 90s raised, I'm
yeah,
assuming.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I wasn't really there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Okay, what is the reason so why Indigenous people struggle on an everyday basis? Because it's crazy. It's happening in Canada, the world. Um, what is the reason?
I think the biggest thing that Indigenous people struggle with is just the mere fact that they deal with a lot of poverty. They're losing their lands. And yeah, and also just like the crime rate for them is a lot higher than other people, which I didn't know that. Maybe this is ignorant of me, but I would have thought, especially Black people would have been the highest, but apparently not, which I don't know what to say to that, if that's good or bad. I don't know, because it's not very good for them. But yeah, I think they just deal with a lot of people just looking at them as less than human. And this isn't just happening in Canada. We're hearing this in the States as well. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they're just seen as less than human. And I think a lot of Canadians have not the same respect for them as maybe they deserve. Right. Because of the mere fact, like, they don't have to pay taxes as we were told, but maybe that's not.
They still pay taxes though. I mean, they don't pay the full of, yeah.
They do.
I think, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
A lot of it, I think that like, we don't get enough, we're not taught enough about them. In school, I can remember we're just brushed over the topic of who they are and how they contribute in terms of like back in the day of hunting and survival and all that stuff, right? But we're not fully taught a good classroom education as who they are and how they're we owe them so much. It's just pages ripped out of the history books that we should actually bring back. And there should be, just like how they have the whole financial courses in school now, we should also have Indigenous courses for everyone to learn, because you cannot erase that part of history at all. And I think what I see with Gen Z, because I think this generation, it will, we're all about protesting, mental health, and et cetera, et cetera. I think that they should push into having this back into school, because it's really important. If we lose that opportunity to fight for the education on Indigenous people within Canada, we're going to lose a lot. And it just goes back, like, we do so much ill to them, and it's not okay. And then we have to, as Canadians, I'm not Indigenous, but I would always advocate for them. And I think it also has to come down to the people constantly advocating for the rights. And that's why I shout out to Julie Black, because she does an amazing job for them.
Do you guys think giving a day to Indigenous people is enough?
No, absolutely not. There's 2 days in this year that I believe it's in July and September. It's September 29th, marking, I guess, the second one if you look at the calendar year. It's not enough, because we only talk about it for that day. We only talk about, is it the red t-shirt day? I forgot what it's called, for the missing women in the community. I don't think it's enough. I think now we talk about it more because it's being brought onto, like, from what I can hear from my daughter's school and even my son's daycare, like, they're bringing it to life now. But more can always be done.
Right.
I agree. More can be definitely done to, especially, like, again, like Ramona mentioned with the school, and I don't particularly remember learning a whole lot, except for this is what they contributed, and I agree with that. And kind of piggybacking back onto our last week's episode, we need to do better with education and teaching people about what's important, and stop focusing on just how to put it lightly, how white people are affected in history.
Mm.
And that I think needs to be changed as well.
So the Red T-shirt Day is accessibility and inclusion, Ramona.
Okay. Is that the one I was referring to?
Yeah, that's what you're
Okay.
referring to. And okay. Also, for the period of 2015 to 2020, the average homicide rate involving Indigenous victims is 8.64 per 100,000 Indigenous people, was 6 times higher than homicide rate involving non-Indigenous victims, 1.39 per 100,000 non-Indigenous people. So, wow.
Yeah, that's
Canada.
unfortunate.
That's in
I do
Canada.
want to correct myself. Sorry. I was sorry. What I was saying is the Red Dress Day, which is also known as National Day of Awareness of Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit
okay.
People.
Oh, okay. Huh. Wow. Okay. All right. So thank you, Ramona, for being on the podcast. You're always welcome on the podcast. Hope we can have you more conversations on more topic in the future. So thank you for being on the Next Take.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day, guys.
So this ends episode 4 of the Next Take podcast. Next Take podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called SoloTO, Next Take Podcast. And for contact, email us at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. Anything you want to say, Tanyka?
No, I think we covered a lot. I think we did pretty good this episode. Enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. This was a very, very good conversation. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode 4 of the podcast. I'm Mikel Miles, and
I'm Tanyka.
And we are
and
out.
Ramona.
And Ramona. All right. And we are out until next week.